Welcome back to another day in the life as a military wife. And it has been a little crazy. We are mostly done with our move. I don't think you're ever done moving if you're military. I think you're just perpetually are unpacking and packing boxes. But, eventually I might find everything. Maybe. I think I've lost track of what I own because I've never seen half of it anymore. But that's a whole nother story. I wanted to catch up on a couple things that are going on in the world regarding the military involvement with the hurricane relief in Florida, as well as some other things that have come up as of late. So I want to share those with you. And as always, you're listening to Sam Wolf, and this is Life of a Military Wife. Okay, so let's jump into things. With Hurricane Ian, I know that it's kind of fallen out of the news a little bit, but I want to talk about what happens with the military involvement in these situations. By and large, National Guard is usually who's called out. There have been instances, like I know, for example, the hurricane that hit Puerto Rico several years back. My husband's unit was an active duty unit that was tasked with assisting with relief. And due to the fact that my husband is bilingual, he spent quite a bit of time on the phone with people arranging for all sorts of different logistical needs for the military service members who were going to be assisting with that cleanup. In regards to Hurricane Ian, there's been nearly 5,000 National Guardsmen from Florida, Louisiana, New York, Tennessee, Georgia, Indiana, New Jersey, South Carolina, and Montana who've been sent to assist with the cleanup and recovery efforts. The naval station at Mayport in Florida is conducting damage assessments currently on the base to figure out the extent of damage that was, that happened. And those who were evacuated from MacDill Air Force Base in Florida have been permitted to return. But again, if you're in those areas and or you've got families in those areas, look at the up-to-date information that's being put out by the installation commanders in regards to work and who they want on these installations and whatnot. The Naval Submarine Base, King Bay in Georgia, is also going to be completing damage assessments because it was hit by the, second wave, if you could say, of Ian. So there is definitely some cleanup and whatnot going along with that. But the other thing that I wanted to discuss today is something that's hit the news recently, and it hit the news in several different ways. So in the middle of my move, on my feed, just because I keep track of a lot of this stuff, there was an update on the renaming of military installations. And the renaming of the military installations had come up a few years back. And in regards to all of that, oh my gosh, now I can't find the survey. Okay, I'm going to pull that up in just a second. But here's what I have. So they are going to be renaming the installations, Army bases specifically. The DoD has announced that it'll be spending $83 million to rename 9 Army bases posts that were named after Confederate generals. And the $83 encompasses the putting the new names up and removing everything that had the old names. And removing everything that had the old names is what is really going to actually cost the bulk of the money. And this is $83 million, by the way. So I found as I was researching this, I was like, well, what do people think about this? Are people in favor of this? Are they not in favor of this? And I didn't see any recent polling. I did find a poll, but this poll was a little older. And that's the one I was saying I had to go back and look up. I'm like, where did I put my poll? But I think I've just found it. And this one was conducted by, again, let me make sure I'm quoting that. Nope, that's not the one. Yeah, it is. This is it. It says half of most voters are not for it, but the poll was conducted by Politico, and it was of 1,987 registered voters back in 2020 when this was originally proposed. It's now been approved. And so nearly half of Americans said they didn't really want this. Only 33% said, yeah, go ahead, rename them. 19% said, I don't know, or I don't have an opinion. And 48% said, no, leave them as they are. And that was a little out of date. So I kind of wanted to do my own. And again, my audience is not, it's still growing, and not everybody wants to respond to these. But out of 128 military spouses, and this is the other one was just general voters. The people I polled were military spouses. Out of those military spouses, and I gave a little bit more options on responses. 3% said, yes, I'm comfortable with this money being spent this way. 65% said, I would rather see money spent on improving housing. 13% said, I would rather see money used for schools on military installations. 0% didn't have an opinion. And then I allowed for respondents to add their own things. And one respondent added the option, I would rather taxation without representation be stopped. Basically, if you're going to be using military money on things, maybe the military should have some say on how the military spends these things. And we'll get back to that. This a few things have really stacked up lately that on this one. And then the next one that was added by a respondent was, the name changes should or could take place, but why is it costing so much? And that was 12% agreed with that opinion. And the other thing that when I was talking to my husband about this, we kind of brainstormed is, why are we doing it all at once too? And this really comes into play when I bring up the next thing that just hit. The next bombshell that just hit was yesterday or the day before. I'm not, I think it was basically this week. The index for military strength, the U.S. index for military strength came out. And it's painful, people. It is so painful. Basically, here's the good news. We're going to start with the good news. Marine Corps, yeah, you're doing good. Yeah, you're the only one who passed. The Marine Corps is the only active duty branch that passed the U.S. index for military strength. So, way to go, Marine Corps. I'm not sure what you're doing or how you're doing it, but maybe it's just because you're smaller and you've got less bureaucracy and red tape. I don't know, but we're gonna be proud of you, Marine Corps. Good on you. The Army was rated marginal, and the Navy and the Space Force were rated weak, and the Air Force was rated very weak. This is to do with readiness. So for all y'all who may not understand what this entails, it is based off of the ability for the United States military to respond in a timely and effective manner to a new global or a significant threat. Basically, if a war was start somewhere on the world tomorrow and we had to be on the ball, like we had to be on the field in like a day or two, could we do it? Could we like drop what we're doing now and retrain and redeploy in an effective time frame? And the answer for most of this is no. Now, the United States standards are rather high. And my husband said that he's worked with several other militaries and their standards are not as high as ours. And that's part of the reason why we're still doing okay. But this is still unacceptable. And then the report I listened to I listened to a podcast on some with former Air Force general discussing this. And then there's also a U.S. representative on the Gallagher and his take on this. And basically, a huge contributing factor is not the service members themselves. The service members are doing their very best. The issue is we don't have spending has not kept up with inflation. And so maintenance of equipment has not kept up where it needs to be. And so we're struggling because you can give I think everyone understands inflation a little bit at this point. If you're only given, you know, $3 to go get eggs and that buys you a dozen and a half and then the price goes up and you still only have $3 to get eggs and now you can only get a dozen eggs, you don't have as many eggs. And the same thing, I know that's a really, really simplistic analysis of this, but I kind of want to just bring it down. If the military budgets cannot outpace inflation, then we cannot achieve the same amount level of readiness with the funds we have. And that's just basic logic. So yeah, it goes back to that whole 83 million. We're spending 83 million to rename a bunch of bases. And I'm going to say I looked at the people they're renaming these bases for. These people are incredible and they do deserve to be honored and remembered and respected for their amazing contributions to, or at least the ones I looked at. I will admit I did not fully research all of them. There were 9. And I've been moving. So, I've had a few things on my plate. But of the ones that I did research, they were outstanding, remarkable people, totally worth, recognizing. But 83 million right now, we can't outpace inflation to maintain a proper level of readiness. And we're going to spend 83 million to change some names. Why? Why? So after in light of this week's revelations, I wish I had put on the poll, or should we, spend the money on, maintaining equipment? Um, because I think that would be something that people would be in favor of. So it's just it's a sticky wicket. It's crazy. It's complicated, but I have a hard time. I get the logic, I get the reasoning, I understand, I accept that. Maybe these names do need to be changed, but at what cost? What are our priorities? Is this a military? What is the purpose of our military? If we don't understand the purpose and priorities of having and maintaining our U.S. military, I think that's a conversation we should have as a country. And so it's just, this whole thing has got me thinking. And again, this is something that as service members, we oftentimes don't get the opportunity to express how we feel about it. I'm all for recognizing the people that they have decided to recognize. I'm not against renaming those posts. I just feel like we need to get our priorities straight as a military. And what is the most important thing for a military? It should be readiness. And if readiness isn't our number one priority, we all need to have a little sit down and discuss some things as a country. So that's my little, quick take on all of this. You're more than welcome to go check out the report, um, and look at how they're spending and what they're spending it on. But um, just wanted to bring those up. So today it's going to be a little short and a little late getting out, because I'm still moving, but I felt like I should get something out to y'all, regards with the information and what's going on. So I hope that all is well with your families. I know inflation is hitting everyone hard, and let's just hope that I feel like it's important to be optimistic. We can get through this. And part of getting through this is being realistic and honest with ourselves and those around us about what reality really is right now. So, that all said, I am your host, Sam Wolf, and you've been listening to Life of a Military Wife.